I'm standing in the middle of my 20-year high school reunion, wearing an $18,000 Alexander McQueen dress, while Ashley Pemberton, the same girl who once told me my shoes looked like they came from a dumpster, shoves her half-empty champagne flute into my hand like I'm hired help. The crystal is sticky with her lipstick, warm from her grip. My fingers tighten around the stem. Behind her, Sarah Chen and Madison Walker are laughing at something on Madison's phone, their diamond tennis bracelets catching the light from the country club chandeliers, throwing prismatic fragments across the marble floor. None of them have looked at my face in the last 20 minutes. Not once. To them, I'm wallpaper. Background noise. Furniture. The same invisible scholarship girl who used to eat lunch alone in the library bathroom because the cafeteria felt like a gladiator arena designed specifically for my humiliation. But in exactly 4 minutes, Principal Paul Collins is going to walk onto that stage with a microphone in his hand and a secret in his chest, and everything these women believe about the world, about hierarchy, about worth, about who matters and who doesn't, is going to detonate like a bomb wrapped in silk. 4 minutes until they learn who paid for Riverside High's new $10 million library. 4 minutes until I stop being invisible forever. My heart is hammering against my ribs so hard I can feel it in my throat, in my wrists, in my temples. The room smells like expensive perfume and desperation, like everyone here is trying to prove something to ghosts. Ashley's Chanel No. 5 is so thick it coats my tongue, mixing with the champagne and the hors d'oeuvres I haven't touched because my stomach is twisted into knots. The bass from the DJ speakers vibrates through the marble floor, up through my Louboutin heels, red-soled proof that I've traveled further than any of them could imagine. But they haven't noticed the shoes. Haven't noticed the dress. Haven't noticed anything except what they want to see. The girl I was, not the woman I became. Ashley turns around, finally remembering I exist. "Oh, Melissa, you're still here. Be a doll and grab us another round." She says it like a question, but her eyes say it's a command. Those same ice blue eyes that watched me get shoved into a locker sophomore year and did nothing. That watched, smiled, and turned away like my humiliation was entertainment, like I was a show put on for her amusement. I smile back. Slow. Deliberate. The kind of smile that cost me 15 years and $400 million to learn. The smile I use in boardrooms when someone underestimates me. The smile that says I know something you don't. Actually, I say, my voice quiet but diamond hard, I'm not your server. But what I said next changed everything. Before we continue with my story, can I ask you something? I spend 15 to 20 hours researching, writing, and perfecting each story for you. That's nearly a full week of work to create these cinematic experiences completely free. While you're here enjoying this story, YouTube only shows it to a tiny fraction of people unless you take just 2 seconds to hit subscribe. Here's the thing, if just half of you watching right now subscribed, this channel would explode, and I could create even deeper, more complex stories for you every single week. But only about 3% of viewers are subscribed. That means 97% of you are enjoying hours of content but haven't taken that tiny step. I'm not asking for money. I'm asking for a single click that tells YouTube show this to more people. So here's my request. If you're enjoying Melissa's story so far, click subscribe. It takes 2 seconds and means everything to this channel's survival. Also, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. I love seeing this global community we're building. Last video we had viewers from 47 different countries. Now, let's get back to the story, because what happens next changes everything for Melissa. Ashley's perfectly microbladed eyebrows draw together in confusion, then irritation. "Excuse me. I said I'm not your server." I set her champagne flute down on the nearest table with a soft click that somehow cuts through the music, through the chatter, through the noise. "I'm a guest. Just like you." The temperature around us drops 10 degrees. Madison's mouth opens slightly, her glossed lips forming a perfect O of shock. Sarah stops scrolling on her phone, her thumb frozen mid-swipe. 4-3 heartbeats, nobody moves. We're a tableau, a freeze frame, a moment suspended in amber. Then Ashley laughs, that performative, crystalline laugh she's been using since junior year to turn cruelty into comedy, to make her victims feel like they're overreacting, like they're the problem. "Oh my God, Melissa, relax. I was just asking because you're standing right there. Don't be so sensitive. She touches my arm, her fingers cold despite the warm evening, her nails perfectly manicured in a shade called ballet slipper. We heard about your mom passing last year, right? That must have been so hard on you financially. With medical bills and everything. There it is. The knife wrapped in sympathy. The casual cruelty that draws blood while smiling. The assumption that my mother's death must have bankrupted me, that I must be drowning in debt, that tragedy for people like me can only mean financial ruin. My mother, Rosa Brooks, who worked as a night nurse, a weekend waitress, and a weekday house cleaner so I could have a graphing calculator for AP calculus, who died of a heart attack at 51, her body simply giving up after decades of 16-hour days, after years of choosing between her blood pressure medication and my school supplies, who died 2 weeks before my MIT graduation, so she never got to see me walk across that stage in my cap and gown, who never knew I named my company after her, Technova, because Nova was her middle name, the word she whispered when she looked at stars through our apartment window and dreamed of better things for me, for us, for a future that felt impossibly far away. We want to help, Sarah adds, her voice dripping with manufactured concern, with the kind of pity that feels like contempt wearing a mask. Madison's husband owns 3 car dealerships in the Tri-County area. He could probably get you into something reliable. A nice used Honda or Toyota. Since you came in an Uber. I did arrive in an Uber. Because I'd been drinking at the hotel bar beforehand, gathering courage to face this room, to walk into my past and confront the ghosts that still whisper in my head sometimes. And I didn't want to drive after 2 martinis. My Tesla Model S is parked at the Riverside Grand, charging in the hotel's parking garage. My vintage Porsche 911 is in my Palo Alto garage, a birthday present to myself when Technova hit unicorn status. My Audi R8 is currently being detailed in San Francisco, probably by someone making more per hour than Ashley's husband makes in a day at his marketing firm. But they don't ask about any of this. They assume. Because assumption is easier than curiosity, and cruelty requires less energy than kindness. Because they need me to be struggling so they can feel successful. They need me to be less so they can feel like more. That's very generous, I say. My voice is steady. Calm. I've negotiated billion-dollar acquisitions with less emotion than I'm showing now. I'll keep that in mind. Good. Ashley beams, already dismissing me again, her attention span exhausted by the effort of fake compassion. She turns back to her circle, her tribe, her people. Anyway, as I was saying, the Hamptons house has this incredible infinity pool that overlooks the ocean. We're thinking of putting in a second one, indoor, for the winter months. I walk away. My heels click across the marble like a countdown timer, like a clock ticking toward detonation. Each step takes me further from them and closer to something I can't quite name yet. Freedom, maybe. Or vindication. Or just the simple pleasure of breathing air that doesn't smell like their perfume. The Riverside Country Club looks exactly like it did when I used to see it from the bus window on my way home from school, back when I'd press my forehead against the cold glass and watch this building pass by like a castle in a fairy tale, like something that existed in a different dimension from my reality. All white columns and manicured lawns and the kind of old money that smells like leather-bound books and legacy admissions and inherited wealth. I never imagined I'd walk through these doors as anything other than help. Maybe a caterer, maybe a valet, maybe someone cleaning the bathrooms after events like this. Never imagined I'd belong in a place like this. The thing is, I still don't feel like I belong. That's the secret about poverty that nobody tells you. It lives in your bones even after your bank account says you're safe. It whispers that you're a fraud, an imposter, a pretender. That someone will figure out you don't deserve to be here, that the real you is still that girl with holes in her jeans eating dollar store crackers for lunch in a bathroom stall, trying not to cry because crying would ruin your makeup and you can't afford to replace it. I find refuge on the terrace overlooking the golf course. The sun is setting, painting everything gold and rose and violet, colors so beautiful they hurt. The air smells like cut grass and chlorine from the pool and jasmine from the flowering vines climbing the pergola. Out here, away from the noise and the lights and the ghosts wearing familiar faces, I can breathe. Beautiful evening. I turn. Principal Collins is standing in the doorway, backlit by the party inside, older now, his hair white instead of salt and pepper, his shoulders a bit more stooped, but his eyes still kind. Still seeing. Still the same man who saved my life without ever making me feel like I needed saving. Mr. Collins. Paul, please. You haven't been my student in 20 years, Melissa. He walks over, hands in his pockets, moving slowly like he doesn't want to startle me. I was hoping you'd come tonight. Were you? I look back at the sunset, at the sky bleeding color. I almost didn't. But you did. That takes courage. He's quiet for a moment, and we stand together in comfortable silence, watching the light change. Then, I followed your career. Technova Solutions. The Google acquisition last year. Very impressive, Melissa. Your mother would be so proud. My stomach tightens. My throat closes. How did you? I make it my business to know what my former students accomplish. Especially the ones who used to spend lunch period in my office because they had nowhere else to go. His voice is gentle, like he's handling something fragile. Especially the ones who reminded me why I became a teacher in the first place. The memory hits me like a fist to the chest, knocking the air from my lungs. His office. The door he'd leave unlocked during lunch period. The granola bars he'd leave on his desk, pretending to forget about them, acting surprised when I'd mention they were there. Oh, I must have left those this morning. You should take them, Melissa. I'm trying to cut back on snacking. The way he'd let me sit in the corner with a book, never asking questions, never making me explain why I needed sanctuary. The recommendation letter he wrote for MIT that made the admissions officer cry. I know because she told me later, years later, when I endowed a scholarship in his name at the university. You saved my life, I whisper. The words feel too small for what he did, for what he gave me. You know that. You saved my life. You saved your own life, Melissa. I just opened a door. He pauses, and when he speaks again, his voice is thick with emotion. You walked through it. You did the work. You earned everything you have. We stand in silence for another moment. Then he clears his throat, and I can tell he's about to say something important, something he's been planning. Tomorrow, we're dedicating the new library. The board wants to call it the Schwartzman Library, after some hedge fund manager from Manhattan who's never set foot in Riverside, who probably couldn't find this town on a map. I've been fighting them for months to keep it simple. Just the Riverside Library. $10 million from an anonymous donor. His eyes meet mine, and I see everything he knows, everything he's guessed. You wouldn't know anything about that, would you? I'd routed the donation through 3 shell corporations and a Delaware law firm that specializes in anonymous philanthropy. It was supposed to be untraceable, invisible, a ghost transaction that left no fingerprints. But Paul Collins didn't become principal of a struggling public school by being unobservant. He's spent 40 years learning to see the things people try to hide. I admit, because lying to him feels impossible, feels like a betrayal of everything he gave me. I thought so. The donation arrived exactly 2 weeks after I emailed you about our funding crisis. You were the only alumnus I contacted personally. The only one I thought might understand what it means when students don't have access to books, to technology, to quiet places to learn. He puts a hand on my shoulder, and the gesture is so fatherly it makes my chest ache, makes me miss my mother so intensely I have to bite my lip to keep from crying. Will you let me announce it? Not for you. For the students who need to see that success comes from unexpected places. That the quiet girl in the library can change the world. I don't want recognition. I know. That's exactly why you deserve it. His voice is firm now, principal voice, the tone that brooks no argument. These kids need to see you, Melissa. They need to see that you can come from nothing and become everything. That poverty isn't permanent. That being underestimated is not the same as being worthless. He squeezes my shoulder gently. The ceremony is tomorrow at 2 p.m. Just show up. I'll follow your lead. If you want to stay anonymous, I'll respect that. But give them, the chance to know it's possible. He leaves me alone with the sunset and a decision that feels heavier than it should, Heavier than $10 million. Heavier than all the money I've made and all the success I've achieved. I could run. Book a flight back to California tonight. Never see Ashley or Sarah or Madison again. Never have to face the girls who made high school feel like a war zone, like survival training, like 4 years of learning to make myself smaller and quieter and less visible so I wouldn't be a target. But running feels like losing. And I've never been good at losing. At midnight, I'm in my hotel room at the Riverside Grand, sitting on a bed that's too soft, in a room that smells like industrial carpet cleaner and someone else's perfume. I'm staring at my phone, watching emails pile up. My CFO has sent 17 messages about the acquisition terms, about escrow and earnouts and retention packages. My head of product needs approval on the Q3 roadmap, on features and timelines and resource allocation. Forbes wants an interview about women in tech. TechCrunch wants a profile about my journey from MIT to startup founder to acquisition. Bloomberg wants a feature about the future of education technology. But all I can think about is Ashley's cold fingers on my arm. That pitying voice dripping with false concern. We want to help. I think about the girl I was 20 years ago. The girl who believed them when they said she was worthless. The girl who sometimes still lives inside me, whispering that I'm a fraud, that I don't deserve any of this, that eventually everyone will figure out I'm just pretending to be successful. Then I think about the girl who will sit in that new library tomorrow. The girl who feels invisible right now. The girl who needs to see that it's possible to escape, to transcend, to become something more than what this town expects from you. I make a decision. I call my assistant Jennifer. She answers on the second ring, voice alert despite the hour. In Silicon Valley, midnight calls aren't unusual. Melissa, everything okay? I need a favor. Remember that red McQueen dress from the TechCrunch Disrupt afterparty? The one from last year. The $18,000 one with the architectural shoulders that made you look like a CEO and a superhero at the same time. Despite everything, I smile. That one. I need it couriered to Riverside by noon tomorrow. Use the emergency service. I don't care what it costs. Done. What else? I need you to leak something to TechCrunch. Off the record. Anonymous source. Make it untraceable. There's a pause. Jennifer has been with me for 5 years. She knows when I'm up to something. Leak what? That I'm announcing a new venture tomorrow. Education focused. Something big. Potentially revolutionary. In my hometown of Riverside. I can hear her typing, taking notes. Make it mysterious. Make people curious. Make them wonder what Melissa Brooks is doing in a small town in the middle of nowhere. She's quiet for exactly 3 seconds. I can almost hear her brain working, putting pieces together. Then, you're not actually announcing anything, are you? No. But I need certain people to think I might be. I need them to Google me. I need them to see the TechCrunch articles and the Forbes profiles and the acquisition announcement. I need them to understand exactly who I am before I walk into that ceremony tomorrow. Consider it done. Her voice is filled with something like glee. Jennifer grew up poor too, in Oakland, first-generation immigrant parents who worked themselves to exhaustion so she could go to Berkeley. She understands this kind of revenge. Anything else? Contact Marcus. I need full hair and makeup at the hotel by noon. Red carpet level. Presidential debate level. I want to look like I stepped out of Vogue, not like I'm visiting my hometown. You want to destroy someone, she says. It's not a question. I want to be visible, I correct. For the first time in 20 years, I want them to actually see me. When I hang up, I feel it. That old familiar electricity running through my veins like lightning, like caffeine, like the moment before you jump off a cliff and hope you can fly. The same feeling I had pitching Technova to my first investor with nothing but a prototype and a prayer and $300 in my bank account. The same feeling I had telling my team we were going to compete with companies 100 times our size, with Google and Microsoft and Amazon, and we were going to win. Not anger. Not revenge. Certainty. I wake up to my phone vibrating off the nightstand, clattering onto the floor. 17 texts from people I haven't heard from since graduation. People who ignored me for 20 years and suddenly want to reconnect. The TechCrunch leak worked. The tech news ecosystem moves fast, and gossip moves faster. Everyone wants to know what Melissa Brooks is announcing, what the invisible girl is planning. The nothing girl is suddenly very, very visible. By 11 a.m., my hotel room has transformed into a war room, a salon, a command center. Marcus arrived from San Francisco on the earliest flight, bringing 2 assistants and enough makeup to paint the Sistine Chapel, enough hair products to stock a small salon. The McQueen dress hangs on the bathroom door like a flag, like a warning, like a promise written in crimson silk. "Tell me we're destroying someone today," Marcus says, running his fingers through my hair, analyzing texture and volume and possibility like a sculptor examining a block of marble. Because this level of glamour requires a worthy target. High School Reunion, Part 2. His reflection grins in the mirror, sharp and feral. "Revenge looks good on you, honey. It always has. You wore it well at the TechCrunch party when you won Startup of the Year over those tech bros who tried to steal your idea." He works magic. My usual simple ponytail, the efficient, no-nonsense style I wear to the office, becomes Hollywood waves that cascade over one shoulder like liquid silk, like something from a movie premiere. My makeup is a work of art, a masterpiece of subtle devastation, natural but perfect, the kind that makes you look effortlessly flawless, like you woke up genetically blessed instead of spending 2 hours in a chair while someone painted your face with brushes that cost more than my entire high school wardrobe. The dress fits like it was engineered specifically for my body, like it was designed by someone who understands that clothes are armor, that fashion is strategy, that presentation is power. Crimson red, the color of blood and roses and revolution. Structured shoulders that could cut glass, that make me look taller, stronger, more formidable. A neckline that says power before it says anything else, that commands attention without demanding it. I look at myself in the mirror and barely recognize the woman staring back. I look like $412 million. I look like someone you can't ignore. I look dangerous. At 1:30 p.m., I slide into my Tesla. Jennifer had it driven from the hotel parking garage to the school, a little touch of theater I couldn't resist, and watch myself in the rearview mirror. The woman looking back is a stranger. No, not a stranger. The woman I always was, buried under years of making myself small, finally allowed to take up space. The dedication ceremony is being held in Riverside High's main courtyard, the same space where I used to eat lunch alone on the rare occasions I couldn't hide in the library or Mr. Collins's office. Someone hung a banner reading "Celebrating Excellence in Education in School Colors." Through the windows, I can see the new library, all glass and natural light and clean modern lines, filled with books and computers and quiet corners designed for students who need somewhere safe to exist, somewhere to hide, somewhere to dream. Students like I was. I arrive at exactly 1:55 p.m. late enough to make an entrance. Early enough to not be rude. Fashionably late, they call it, though there's nothing fashionable about the calculation behind it. Every single head turns. It's like a movie, like a music video, like a moment choreographed for maximum impact. Conversations stop mid-sentence. Champagne flutes pause halfway to lips. The crowd parts like the Red Sea, creating a path from the parking lot to the ceremony space. Ashley's champagne flute stops halfway to her mouth, suspended in mid-air. Sarah's hand freezes on Madison's arm, her perfectly manicured nails digging into fabric. Madison's phone slips from her fingers, caught at the last second. The whispers start immediately, spreading through the crowd like wildfire, like a virus, like electricity through water. Is that Melissa Brooks? Oh my God, that dress. I heard she's making a huge announcement. Someone said she sold her company to Google for almost $1 billion. No way. Not her. Not the scholarship kid. Check TechCrunch. It's all over the news. I watch them pull out their phones, watch them Google my name, watch their faces change as they read the articles, the profiles, the acquisition announcement. Watch them understand that the invisible girl became impossible to ignore. I walk to the front row where a reserved seat has my name on it. Melissa Brooks, printed on cream cardstock in elegant script. Right next to the Ashleys. Because of course it is. Because the universe has a sense of humor. Their faces are studies in controlled shock, in cognitive dissonance, in the desperate attempt to reconcile the person they thought I was with the person standing before them. Melissa. Ashley's voice is strangled, tight, like she's being choked by her own assumptions. You look different. Thank you. Is that real McQueen? Her eyes scan every inch of the dress, calculating, pricing, comparing. Yes. Her eyes narrow. Just slightly. Just enough for me to catch it. Special occasion. Just wanted to look nice for the library dedication. I smile. Sweet. Innocent. Deadly. Right. She glances at Sarah and Madison. They're having an entire conversation with their eyes, a silent exchange of panic and confusion and the dawning realization that they made a terrible mistake. It's so weird that they won't announce the donor. Like, why be secretive? Seems almost suspicious. Madison leans forward, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. Or maybe it's dirty money. You know, like some tech bro who wants to launder his reputation. Or some cryptocurrency scam artist trying to buy legitimacy. Women don't make that kind of money anyway, Sarah adds, her voice confident despite the uncertainty in her eyes. It's probably some hedge fund guy from Manhattan. Or a trust fund baby trying to impress someone. I smile. Don't speak. Let them talk themselves into corners. Let them dig their own graves with their assumptions. Sometimes silence is the most devastating response. Principal Collins takes the stage. The microphone screeches feedback for a moment, then settles into clarity. He looks exactly like he did in his office 20 years ago. Solid, steady, safe, like an anchor in a storm. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this very special occasion. Today, we dedicate a library that will serve generations of Riverside students. A library that represents hope, opportunity, and the fundamental belief that every student deserves access to excellence, regardless of their background, their zip code, or their parents' bank account. The crowd applauds politely. Ashley checks her phone, already bored, already dismissing the speech as administrative noise. She has no idea what's coming. This library exists because of one person's extraordinary generosity. A $10 million donation that transformed what was possible for our school, that changed the trajectory of thousands of students' lives. For months, this donor has remained anonymous, valuing impact over recognition, caring more about results than credit. But I convinced her, he emphasizes the word, and I see Ashley's spine straighten, that her story needs to be heard. That students need to see what's possible when talent meets opportunity. That they need to know poverty is not destiny. The whispers intensify. Phones come out. People start looking around, trying to identify who in this crowd could possibly have $10 million to donate. Please welcome Melissa Brooks, founder and CEO of Technova Solutions, to tell us why she chose to invest in our school's future, in our students' dreams, in the next generation of scholars and innovators. The applause is thunder. Lightning. Earthquake. Tsunami. It crashes over me in waves, overwhelming and terrifying and exhilarating all at once. I stand. Smooth my dress. Walk to the stage on legs that feel steady even though my heart is trying to escape my chest, even though every instinct I have is screaming at me to run, to hide, to make myself small again. The microphone is cool in my hand. Solid. Real. I look out at the crowd. Students who remind me of myself, the quiet ones in the back, the ones wearing last year's fashion, the ones who look like they're trying to be invisible. Teachers who either helped or ignored me, who either saw my potential or saw nothing at all. And in the front row, 3 women whose faces have drained of all color, whose carefully constructed worldview is crumbling like a sand castle in the tide. Thank you, Principal Collins. My voice doesn't shake. Years of investor pitches and conference keynotes and boardroom negotiations have taught me how to sound certain even when I'm terrified, how to project confidence even when I'm falling apart inside. I wasn't planning to speak today. I made this donation anonymously because I didn't want recognition or praise or a building with my name on it. I wanted results. Pause. Let them lean in. Let the silence build. 20 years ago, I was a student here. I was the girl who ate lunch in the library bathroom because I couldn't afford cafeteria food and didn't want anyone to know. The girl who wore the same 3 outfits on rotation: jeans from Goodwill, shirts from Target clearance racks, shoes held together with duct tape and prayers, because my mother worked 3 jobs and we still couldn't make ends meet. I was invisible to most of my classmates, a ghost moving through these hallways. Or worse, I was visible in all the wrong ways. Visible as a target. Visible as less than. Visible as someone who didn't belong. Ashley shifts in her seat. She knows what's coming. They all do. Some of my peers told me I would never amount to anything. That I was too quiet, too poor, too awkward, too forgettable. That girls like me don't succeed, don't escape, don't become anything more than what this town expects. And for a long time, too long, I believed them. I internalized their cruelty. I made myself smaller, quieter, less visible, thinking that if I could just disappear enough, the pain would stop. My voice strengthens, sharpens, becomes a blade. Until I met educators like Mr. Collins who saw potential in places others saw nothing. Who opened doors I didn't know existed. Who wrote recommendation letters and found scholarship applications and stayed late to help me with college essays. Who reminded me that other people's opinions are not facts, that cruelty says more about the cruel than the victim. I pause. Take a breath. Look directly at the 3 women in the front row. 6 months ago, Mr. Collins emailed me about Riverside High's funding crisis. How the library was falling apart, how the roof leaked and the books were moldy and the computers were 15 years old. How students didn't have access to technology or resources or quiet safe spaces to learn. How kids like I was, smart, hungry, capable, but resource poor, were being left behind, were falling through the cracks, were being told through systematic neglect that they don't matter. My voice cracks. Just slightly. Just enough. Authentic emotion breaking through practiced composure. And I thought about that girl. The one who used to hide in bathroom stalls during lunch, eating crackers from the dollar store, reading library books with broken spines. The one who thought she didn't matter, who believed the voices that said she was worthless, who almost gave up 100 times because the weight of poverty and cruelty and invisibility felt too heavy to carry. Silence. Complete. Total. Even the sound system seems to hold its breath. That girl built a company from nothing. That girl worked 100-hour weeks in a garage with a maxed-out credit card and a dream that everyone said was impossible. That girl just sold her company to Google for $847 million. That girl is now worth more than she ever imagined possible, more than her mother could have dreamed, more than this town thought someone like her could achieve. I let that number hang in the air. 847 million. I watch it land on the Ashleys like a physical blow. Not because she was lucky. Not because someone handed her anything. Not because the system was fair or kind or designed to help people like her. But because she worked harder than everyone who underestimated her. Because she turned invisibility into an advantage. Because she remembered every single person who dismissed her, and she used that memory as fuel. The crowd is completely silent now. Even the wind seems to have stopped. This library isn't named after me. It's not a monument to my success or a building with my name carved in stone. It's a promise. To every student who feels invisible right now. Every kid who's been told they don't belong. Every teenager who's been dismissed, overlooked, underestimated, treated like they're less than human because of their zip code or their parents' bank account or the brand of their shoes. My voice rises, fills the courtyard, becomes something larger than myself. You are enough. You matter. Your dreams are valid. Your intelligence is real. Your potential is limitless. And one day, maybe not today, maybe not next year, but one day, you're going to show everyone who doubted you exactly what you're capable of. You're going to build something extraordinary. You're going to change the world. And they're going to wish they had been kinder to you when they had the chance. The applause starts slowly, uncertainly, then builds into something massive, overwhelming, a standing ovation that makes the ground shake beneath my feet. I see students with tears streaming down their faces. Teachers nodding, some crying too. Cameras flashing. Phones recording. And in the front row, Ashley Pemberton looks like she wants to dissolve into the earth, to disappear, to become as invisible as she once made me feel. After the ceremony, I'm surrounded by a crowd that feels like it might crush me. Students asking how they can start companies, how they can learn to code, how they can escape poverty. Teachers thanking me, hugging me, telling me they always knew I'd do something special. Local press requesting interviews, asking about my next venture, trying to get quotes. It takes an hour to extract myself from the crowd, an hour of shaking hands and posing for photos and repeating thank you until the words lose all meaning. Principal Collins hugs me so tight I can barely breathe. His eyes wet with tears he's not ashamed to show. "That was perfect," he whispers into my hair. "That was everything. You just changed lives, Melissa. You have no idea how many lives you just changed." But I do know. Because mine was changed by a teacher who saw me when I was invisible. Because I remember what it feels like to need hope and have none. Because I know exactly what that speech means to the girl sitting in the back row, wearing last year's clothes, wondering if she'll ever escape. When I finally make it to the parking lot, the sun is setting again, painting the sky in shades of fire. The Ashleys are waiting by my Tesla, looking small and uncertain and nothing like the queens they pretended to be last night. They've changed into more casual clothes, expensive casual, the kind of relaxed that costs $300, but they still look like they belong to this town, to this life, to this limited orbit. Except now I look more expensive than all of them combined. More like I belong everywhere and nowhere, like I transcended the limitations of this place. "Melissa." Ashley's voice is small, unfamiliar, stripped of its usual confidence and cruelty. "Can we talk? Please?" I lean against my car, cross my arms, make them wait for my answer, let them feel what it's like to need something from someone who doesn't owe them anything. "Sure. We had no idea." Sarah's voice breaks. She's been crying, her makeup smudged, her eyes red. "About your company, the donation, any of it. We're so sorry." "About me," I finish, my voice flat. "No, you didn't. Because you never asked. You never wondered. You never cared to know." I look at each of them in turn. "Last night, you assumed I was broke. Struggling. You offered me a deal on a used car like you were doing charity work. You treated me like I was the help, like I was hired to serve you drinks and laugh at your jokes and make you feel important. We were trying to be nice." Madison's voice is defensive, desperate, grasping for justification. "No." The word cuts like a knife. "You were trying to feel superior. There's a difference. You needed me to still be the poor scholarship kid so you could feel successful by comparison. You needed me to be struggling so you could feel like you won. You needed me to be less so you could feel like more." I click my key fob. The Tesla chirps, its lights flashing. Such a small sound, but in this moment, it feels like victory. "You're right." Ashley's crying now too, and it's ugly crying, not the pretty movie kind. Mascara streaking, nose running, face crumpling. "We were terrible to you. In high school and last night. We were cruel and petty and small. We were threatened by you, I think. Even back then, we knew you were going somewhere, that you had something we didn't, and we tried to crush it out of you because we were scared. That's why we were mean," Madison adds quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. "Because we peaked at 18, and you hadn't even started climbing yet. We knew it then, even if we couldn't admit it. We knew that 20 years from now, you'd be someone and we'd be, this. Still here. Still the same. Still trying to relive high school because it was the only time we mattered." I look at them, really look at them. They're not monsters. They're not villains from a movie. They're just people who chose cruelty because they were afraid, who hurt others because they were hurting, who spent 20 years watching their relevance fade while others rose. They're people who made bad choices and are now facing consequences they never imagined. I could destroy them right now. I have the power, the platform, the resources. One tweet about their behavior and their social standing in this town would evaporate like morning fog. One interview mentioning their names and they'd become cautionary tales about bullying. I could ruin them. But what would that prove? That I can be cruel too. That success makes cruelty justified? That having power means using it to hurt people? I forgive you, I say. The words surprise me as much as they surprise them. They come from somewhere deep, somewhere I didn't know existed. Not because you deserve it. Not because what you did was okay. But because I deserve peace. Because carrying anger is exhausting, and I've carried it long enough. Ashley's face crumples completely. Thank you. God, Melissa, thank you. But I'm not going to forget. My voice hardens. And we're not friends. We're not going to have coffee and laugh about old times and pretend the past didn't happen. You had 20 years to be better people and you chose not to be. You chose cruelty over kindness, again and again. That's on you. That's your burden to carry. I slide into my car. The leather is cool against my skin, familiar and comforting. I hope you find whatever it is you're looking for. I hope you become the people you should have been. But I'm done helping you feel better about who you are. I drive back to the hotel without looking in the rearview mirror. Behind me, I know they're standing in the parking lot, watching me leave, maybe understanding for the first time what they lost when they chose to be cruel instead of kind. I change into jeans and a t-shirt, comfortable clothes that feel like myself, like coming home to my body. I catch a 6 p.m. flight back to San Francisco, back to my real life, back to the world I built from nothing. 3 days later, Principal Collins emails me. Subject line, you changed lives today. The email contains photos from the library's opening week. Students reading in sunlit corners, their faces lit with concentration and hope. Kids clustered around computers, learning to code, building things, creating futures. A girl who looks exactly like I did at 16, sad eyes, cheap clothes, shoulders hunched like she's trying to disappear, sitting cross-legged on a bean-bag chair with a book, and for the first time in maybe her whole life, she looks safe. That photo becomes the screensaver on my phone, my laptop, my tablet. A reminder of why I do this. Why I succeeded. Why visibility matters. 6 months later, I start the Invisible Scholars Fund. Full-ride scholarships for students from low-income backgrounds who excel academically but fly under the radar. Students who eat lunch in libraries. Students who feel like they don't belong. Students who are me, 20 years ago, desperately needing someone to see them. We fund 234 students the first year. 400 the second. This year, we'll fund 600, and next year we're aiming for 1,000. Each one a life changed. Each one a girl or boy who gets to escape poverty not through luck but through education, through opportunity, through someone finally seeing their potential. Ashley Pemberton is not one of our donors. I don't expect her to be. But Sarah Chen is. She writes me a letter with her first contribution, $5,000, which I know is a lot for her, more than she can probably afford. I'm trying to be better, the letter says in shaky handwriting. Thank you for showing me what better looks like. Thank you for forgiving me even though I didn't deserve it. I'm teaching my daughter about kindness now. About seeing people. About how cruelty might feel powerful in the moment, but kindness is what actually changes the world. I frame the letter. Hang it in my office next to my MIT diploma and my Forbes 30 under 30 plaque and the photo of my mother that I carry everywhere. Last month, I saw Madison Walker at a tech conference in Austin. She avoided eye contact, staying on the opposite side of the ballroom, but her daughter approached me after my keynote speech. 15 years old, braces, eyes bright with hunger and intelligence and that specific kind of determination that comes from watching your parents' regrets. You're the library lady, she said, her voice breathless with excitement. My mom showed me your TED talk like 50 times. She makes me watch it whenever I'm having a bad day. I want to be a coder like you. I want to build things that matter. I gave her my card, my personal email address written on the back in pen. Told her to reach out anytime she needs mentorship, advice, someone to talk to about the challenges of being a woman in tech. She emailed me the next day. We've been corresponding ever since. She's brilliant, already building apps, already thinking about problems she wants to solve, already seeing the world as something she can change rather than something that happens to her. The reunion was supposed to be the end of a chapter. A closing of old wounds, a final confrontation with ghosts, a period at the end of a long sentence. Instead, it was the beginning of something bigger than I could have imagined. A reminder that the kids who get overlooked, dismissed, underestimated, treated like they're invisible, those are the ones who change the world. Because we have something to prove. Because we remember what it felt like to be nothing in other people's eyes. Because we know that visibility is earned, not given, and that success is the best response to cruelty. And because we never, ever forget. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever been underestimated? Dismissed by people who should have known better? Treated like you were invisible when you were standing right in front of them? Drop a comment below with your city and state, and tell me about a time someone treated you like you didn't matter, and how you proved them wrong. Tell me about the moment you became visible. Tell me about your reunion, literal or metaphorical, with the people who doubted you. If this story resonated with you, if it reminded you of your own journey from invisible to unforgettable, if it touched something in you that still remembers what it feels like to be dismissed, smash that like button right now. Don't wait. Don't hesitate. Hit it with everything you've got. And subscribe because I share stories like this every single week. Stories of people who refused to stay small, who turned their pain into power, who built something beautiful out of rejection and cruelty and the determination to prove everyone wrong. Stories of transformation. Stories of revenge, not through cruelty but through success. Stories that remind us that where we start doesn't determine where we finish. Your support means everything to me. Every like, every comment, every share helps these stories reach people who need to hear them. People who feel invisible right now, who are sitting in bathroom stalls eating dollar store crackers, who think they'll never escape, who need to know that it's possible. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for seeing me, and for seeing yourself in this story. And remember, being underestimated isn't a weakness. It's your greatest advantage. It's fuel. It's motivation. It's the fire that forges steel. Because they'll never see you coming until you're already miles ahead, until you're already at the top of the mountain they said you'd never climb. The girl they overlooked is the woman they'll never forget. See you in the next one.